But so what you got to do is you got to hope you get called back. You're up against two other guys who have also got good product, but which of them though is the person that's made the better connection with the buyer? And that's why I talk about the case for humor in sales, Richard, because I think just putting appropriate humor into a sales call or into a business presentation builds connection, trust, and likability. But it all starts off with, what do I want to be famous for?
Welcome to the Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help home service pros cut through the noise, sharpen their business tools, and reclaim the profit, freedom, and impact they've been missing. I'm your host, Richard Walsh, Profit Freedom Coach, and I'm here to help you stop grinding and start growing. Let's sharpen the spear. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast, with another incredible guest. I've got Conor Cuneen with us. And Conor, we have a tradition here in STS, and that's that no one knows Conor better than Conor. So Conor, bring us up to speed. Give us the backstory. Let's get into what we're going to talk about, because I'm excited for this.
All right. Well, on a point of correction, Richard, I sometimes think my wife knows me better than I know myself, but that's after many years of happy marriage. But my name's Conor Cuneen. The brand is Irishman Speaks. I've been happily exiled in Chicago, Richard, for the last 25 years, so I've nearly got the Chicago accent nailed, as you can gather. What brought me to the United States is that I was a VP of marketing with a large company, Unilever, brands included Hellmann's, Lipton, Ben& Jerry's, etc. And my marketing background in Ireland involved working on brands like Heineken and Murphy's when I was actually in that industry. So now I come to the United States, where I say the Guinness is good-ish, the people are friendly, and I have genuinely been force-fed more corned beef and green beer than I ever had in Ireland. So what got me into the speaking business and the brand Irishman Speaks is after I left Unilever, I did some consulting, was being asked to speak at conferences and events, mainly about the food service market at the time. Realized that I was getting reasonably good responses, worked on developing my material, worked on developing my content, partly by going to an organization called Toastmasters, which I'm still involved with. And as a result of that, I now am Irishman Speaks, and the mission is to improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile. Other things that might be of interest, because when I left Unilever, I went into an outplacement group for a while just to decide what I wanted to do with my life. I decided I did not want to go back in the corporate, but what I did realize was how difficult people were finding the job search. So I offered to do a little bit of work helping people just stay motivated during what are really difficult times. I still do that pro bono. As a result, I received from President Obama the Presidential Gold Medal for volunteer service for the work I do with those in job search. And on top of that, then the other thing I'm really happy about is I'm a Chicago Humor Speaker of the Year. I've got two gorgeous grandkids and a loving wife, and life is good. So
I
that's
love
how it
it.
speaks.
I love it. I love it. Now, you still got to work on the Chicago accent.
Do you think so?
You got to sound like me. Come on, you still got the Baroque, man. You know, I'm Irish with no Irish.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so I'm straight Chicago. You know, people give me a hard time. I'm forever about that, and that's
Okay.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Quite a story. Quite a background. I love the transition. Okay, because a lot of people, Conor, is they do this great thing, work for these big companies. They do really well with them, and then comes the time when that's over,
Yeah.
whether that's by choice or by being volunteered to leave, or
Yeah.
whatever that
Yeah.
might be, right? So
Right.
the military is similar, right? Guys do
Yeah.
15,
True.
20, 30 years, then they got to get out and, all these civilians. It's
Yeah.
horrible. Okay. It's a
Yeah.
hard thing. So it's cool that you found your way. So let's talk about that. Like, what was the span between leaving that and figuring it out? And if you tell me 2 weeks, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I feel like,
Well, would you believe 15 days?
okay.
Right. Well, what actually happened was that the Unilever wanted me to go back to Europe. I brought my daughter over here. I'd already messed up her education a year already, so I decided I didn't want to do that again. I basically told Unilever to get stuffed. They told me get stuffed, so we had a mutual stuffing. Okay.
Yes.
But it was a kind of amicable, and they look after me pretty well. So when I left them, I decided I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, but I was pretty sure I was tired of corporate because corporate sucks the life out of people, and that's what I
Hmm.
tried to work with a lot of my clients to unsuck the life, shall we say, or make the
Hmm.
life less unsuckable kind of thing. But I did some initial work on consulting, and I had a business called Grow Food Service Profit. And as I was being asked to speak at more conferences, and as I was speaking more to job seekers and helping them to find ways to stay motivated during difficult times, and winning the Chicago Humor Speaker of the Year, all of them eventually morphed into Irishman Speaks. And I would say that branding, Richard, probably took maybe 2.5, 3 years before I discovered Irishman Speaks. One is I was absolutely delighted that the phrase was available. So now the website is Irishman Speaks, YouTube is Irishman Speaks, TikTok, Twitter, etc. All of that. So I was glad I really got that. But it really does encapsulate in one word what I'm about. And my mission now is to improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile. And again, that phrase and kind of positioning took a bit of time as well. These things don't happen overnight. You've got to
Right.
stumble. I often use the phrase, it's kind of like climbing the Himalayas. You're in the foothills first, and it goes really slowly, and you get stuck, and you wonder whether I keep going, etc. And then you get a bit more progress, and you feel better, and then you slow down again, kind of thing. So it does take time. If someone's an entrepreneur and trying to search what they're all about, just keep asking questions, keep talking to people, and hopefully it will happen sometime that you'll have real clarity as to what you want to achieve and how you can help people.
Yeah, I think it's a real challenge, Connor, for people, even for me, especially after everything ended in '09 for me after 20 years,
Yeah,
similar, like I didn't want to do what I did.
yeah,
Okay. So I'm all or nothing. So there was that time where I'm like, what do I want to do?
right.
It's like, and I
Yeah,
was like, I can't do that. So what am I going to do? And there was this period of like just trying to figure it out. And then I just started taking action. Well, I like
yeah,
to train people. So I started training people in fitness and I'm doing all this stuff. And that led to opening the gym and I had that business. And I got in the contract and just, I became this business guy again, but I ran it all differently, right? I did all the right things instead of all the wrong things from the first business. So you're right. It took a long time to develop that. My first
yeah.
business took a long time.
It does, and especially if you come out of a large corporate where the structure that you had is phenomenal, and you don't appreciate what the structure has been until you don't have the structure, and suddenly you got to figure out, well, I wasn't this dumb at the corporate level, but I mean, how do I actually fill a photocopy with paper kind of thing? I mean, there's some people literally don't know how to do that when they leave the corporate environment, so it does take time. And also, I think the challenge is to stay focused when you're doing this and to stay motivated because unless you're very lucky, you're not going to discover that pot of gold on the second day that you're out on your own.
Yeah, I agree. I think you know what I also from the corporate standpoint people are operating that especially for a number of years, 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, there's a comfort level at that regardless of what goes on in the position, all right? Even if it's stressful, there's comfort in that, right?
Yeah,
And I always explain that comfort is not where you want to be.
yeah,
And now
yeah,
you have to leave corporate slash comfort, and now you got to go figure everything out like you're saying, and you're going to get punched in the face a few times.
yeah,
It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to lose some money. You're going to do all this stuff, whatever that next thing is, that transition is going to hit you. So it's not kind of for the faint of heart, but you got to know like comfort's just, it's good for a short period of time.
yeah,
But
yeah. But
usually
I mean,
that's,
you've got to keep growing, though. And if you're just
Mhm.
getting comfortable, you're not growing.
Yeah. And, lately I've read some studies that comfort actually shortens your lifespan. So
And
too much comfort, you're going to check out early. You're not going to be able to accomplish everything you want to accomplish. So we got
Right.
to stay uncomfortable,
Yeah.
whatever that
Yeah.
means.
Yeah. I saw a little meme the other day, or a photograph from some sports magazine. So if comfort shortens your lifespan, another way to increase your lifespan, apparently some magazine was claiming that each hour you spend on the golf course increases your lifespan by about 4.5 minutes. So I'm telling my wife I'm going out to extend my life. And as I understand it, she's telling people that's why I tell them not to play golf. So
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it shortens my lifespan if I play golf. My best years are judged on the years I don't have to play ever.
right.
Okay. And I grew up in the golf business. Okay. So
Right.
I got
Yeah.
time in, but boy, I'll tell you what. Yeah, there's everyone's got their thing, Connor. I love it. When I also watch as people try to figure things out, since that's a big thing you're doing, the let's talk about structure in that. Like do you actually like take them through certain steps that are kind of identical when people are making the search, if you will? What does that look like?
What I do, if we're just talking about the job search, I think the question that I ask people in job search, and when I'm dealing with corporate and building teams as well, or motivating teams, I think a really critical question, Richard, is what do I want to be famous for? What do I want to be famous for? In other words, what is it? So if a person's going for a job search, what is it that I want the recruiter to be saying about me after I have left the interview? And it isn't something like, oh, he or she can do the job, because all of the other people who are in for that job, who have been brought to interview, their resume says they can do it. But who is the right fit for the organization? So if you're in job search, for instance, I think you should be paying attention to what is it I want the recruiter to be saying about me after I have left the room. So it should be presumably things like proactive, good team worker, innovative, creative, etc. Whatever words you think are technically good, whatever words you want to go with. But I think you need to have an idea of what those are before you go in, so that then you can actually express some commentary related to them, or some anecdotes that gets the interviewer saying, yeah, this person is creative, proactive, and is a good team worker. Because when that recruiter is passing four names up to the VP to say four names, and they put up three fingers. Not very good at counting. If he's bringing up three or four names to the VP, he's not going to say, oh, well, he's going to say each of them can do the job. But Richard comes across as being proactive, creative, and a good team worker. The other people come across, yes, same kind of way, etc. But that, I think, is really important for people in job search. It's also important, as I said, when I'm dealing with companies, and when I'm dealing with sales teams, for instance, I'm talking to Salesforce. All right, what is it you want your client to say about you after you have left the sales call? And if you are in a business where you're selling $500,000, $1.5 million, $2 million pieces of equipment or something like that, you're not going to get that sale in the first call unless it's a real miracle altogether. But so what you got to do is you got to hope you get called back. You're up against two other guys who have also got good product. But which of them, though, is the person that's made the better connection with the buyer? And that's why I talk about the case for humor in sales, Richard, because I think just putting appropriate humor into a sales call or into a business presentation builds connection, trust, and likability. But it all starts off with, what do I want to be famous for? What do I want the client, the recruiter, or whoever I'm dealing with to say about me after I have left the room?
So I agree with you on the humor thing. I'm a pretty funny guy.
Right?
Okay. Like, I can work it in, but I don't know how you like teach that to someone other than here, memorize these four jokes. But humor to me, and you can speak to this better than I can, but it is, well, obviously it's timing, right? It's timing, appropriateness, execution. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot to it, right? You really got to read the room,
You
in
do.
that.
And what I say is that, well, I mean, when I'm dealing with the clients, I give them the science of the impact of humor first. And basically, when someone smiles, chuckles, or laughs, neurotransmitters are released in the brain. I refer to them as actually little leprechauns, believe it or not. Okay, so see, um, what you're doing there now is you're smiling right now. So what is actually happening is those little leprechauns have popped open in the brain, and you're feeling a little bit better than you were 15, 20 seconds ago. Now it doesn't last for long, but it does make an impact. And what I say is that if you accept the science, and the science is very well proven, Harvard, Stanford, many other institutions have got research on the power and the effect of humor on the brain. So if you can get them smiling, that's why I start off with first, and understanding the humor. So I then say, all right, do you understand? Does this make sense to you that neurotransmitters are released, etc., and the little leprechauns are running around? People say, yes, it does. All right. What I'll now do is I will show you primarily through 5 concepts that will help you to add humor to your presentation or sales call and build connection. So the way I address it, Richard, is I'll ask you a question, and I'm looking for a 5-letter word. Okay? So if I say something that I hope is funny, I believe is funny, what is it that I hope that you will do?
Laugh.
Laugh. All right. Yeah, see, he said laugh, guy. Laugh. All right. Laugh. Laff. Oh, no, it isn't. Laugh. And the basic concept I put to Richard is that I've taken an acronym that is appropriate for the adding humor in sales or in presentations. And I then walk people through the laugh acronym to help them add humor to the presentation. And what I basically say is people say to me, Conor, I get the concept, all right, but I'm not funny. And I say, you don't have to be funny to be funny. What I'm encouraging you to do is to just capture the humor that you see around you on a regular basis, write it down, put it into your iPhone or whatever device you've got. And if you do that on a regular basis, as we'll see with the laugh acronym in a few minutes time, you will have a repository of information that sometime, somewhere, you will be able to use in your sales call. And so people buy into that. Now I get comments like, all right, the first objection was I'm not funny. The second one is, come on, Conor, I'm doing a serious sales call. I'm selling $2.5 million worth of business to a guy, and you expect me to have the guy laughing in the aisles? I say no. What I do believe you can do is, though, a few times in the presentation, is you can put a smile on their face based on appropriate commentary and reinforcement of your message. And each time you put that smile on the face, the leprechauns pop a little bit. It helps to build connection and reduce tension. So as I've been working on this, Richard, more and more, I've been commenting on the fact that it's not about stand-up comedy. It's about standing out in the presentation by using appropriate humor to reinforce your messaging. So if you want at some stage, we can go through the laugh acronym briefly and how that works to build connection.
Sure. Of course, one thing I was thinking about what you said, there's a big element here, and that's the power of observation. Like you said, you're looking around, I mean, the world's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I think I'm witty funny, right? I'm kind
Yeah,
of witty funny. So my family doesn't often laugh at what I say. Okay. Because I'm way up here and they're down here,
right. Yeah, yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
yeah.
Okay. But there will be times, Conor, just saying, there's times, I think we might even have it on video, where I laugh at myself so uncontrollably. I remember one
Right,
time it was like 10 minutes. I mean, almost gonna hurl. Okay.
right.
Then
Yeah,
a business partner of mine calls.
yeah,
Again, and I'm like, I'm trying to answer the phone. I can't stop laughing because
yeah,
I'm so funny. Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah,
and he starts laughing. Doesn't have no idea what I'm laughing about, but
yeah,
just to laugh, So I'm like, finally I calm down everything else. I go, man, you had to be here. That's all I can
yeah.
say. But I'm
Right.
stinking hilarious. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
my kids just like, I think my son like shot it with video, like, how they hold the phone kind of like sideways,
Right.
like you don't know their videotape, but he goes,
Yeah,
and he's got it. I go, keep that. You're going to want
yeah.
to see that when I check out. That's going
Right.
to
Yeah,
brighten your day. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I totally get it, but it's that observation to me. I see funny stuff, not only humor, the application to events and conversations when you're
yeah,
pulling these stories in of
yeah.
things you saw and you can apply. I think it goes hand in hand with the humor aspect.
Absolutely, because the humor in the sales call or in business presentations has to be appropriate. And what I suggest is that you make your serious point and then introduce the element of humor, which could be a quip, a comment, a slide, or a little anecdote. And when people say, "Well, where do I find humor?" And my response to that is anything that you see or hear today that kind of has you going, "Ha!" or anything that puts a smile in your face, pay attention to. I'll give you this a very simple example. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was shaving, all right? And I looked at the Gillette shaving foam, and it says there's an orange icon on the front of it, and on the back of it, there's a warning that says, "This does not contain real oranges." And I'm thinking, how stupid is that kind of thing? That they put that, have to put that on a uh, can of shaving foam. I just took a note of that. I was telling that to my my son, and he was telling me a story that he was in a friend's house on one occasion, and he needed to go to the bathroom, which you never really want to do in a friend's house. Okay, so he was took a long sitting, as we would say. The friend said, "Hey John, come on, we gotta go." So John does his business, grabs the canister beside him, sprays the aerosol spray, except it's not aerosol spray. It's shaving foam all over the place. All right. So that's an example there where something went slightly wrong. When he told me that story, I laughed at it. And I said, all right, where can I use that? And basically, I've used it once or twice since. And the logic is that if you're in an industry where you got to pay attention to detail, so if you're in manufacturing or if you're in an industry where safety is paramount, you have to pay attention to detail. And gang, if you don't pay attention to detail, you're going to get into trouble. I'll give you an example. My son was at the bathroom, etc. Boom, boom, boom. People laugh at it. And it then allows me once or twice later in the presentation to reference the fact, gang, be careful of the shaving foam. It can kill you. All right, or
Yeah,
some kind of
awesome.
phrase like that. So it was a story that I did not create. I just heard it, I captured it, and I said, I'm writing that down. And I have been able to use it in areas where the client needs to pay attention to detail because if they don't, the repercussions can be dramatic.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is a prime example of exactly that. And I'm fortunate I have 6 kids.
Right?
The stories are endless.
Did the man
Okay.
say unfortunately or
That's
fortunately?
fortunately, fortunately, it's awesome. But they're getting almost all grown now. But it's been
Right, yeah.
same thing. You
Yeah.
that is the greatest observation tower you could have.
Yeah.
Okay, looking down on 6 kids doing the daily.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is, and frustrating at the
Yeah.
same time. But it's all worth it, because
Yeah.
I got lots of stories, and it's
It
good.
is, and you see, they come out with the words of wisdom that kind of make you laugh or possibly shock you. And when you come out with those, they come out with those words of wisdom. What I'm encouraging people, and most of the people in my audiences have got kids or grandkids, pay attention to them when they come out with those little nuggets. Just pop it into your iPhone or whatever. You don't know when you're going to use it, but there's a real likelihood that sometime, somewhere, that little quip or comment can be used to reinforce in an appropriate way your message about what you're speaking about.
Yeah, it's so true, and I love that application, Connor, because like I said in the beginning, like, well, what do you mean? Like people, you've explained away the inability to have humor.
Yeah,
Okay, and I like that.
yeah,
I like solving problems.
right, yeah,
Okay, and you just solved. I don't have any humor problems now. There's probably someone who still would blow that because they're so humorless, but that's okay. That's their problem. Okay, we can't
right,
fix
yeah,
everybody. Right? Can't
yeah.
fix everybody. But I love the pointers on that. So let's break down real quick your acronym for laugh.
Okay, so the first element of the LAUGH acronym is listen. And basically, that means that if you hear something that makes you put a smile on your face, listen to it, capture it, and record it. And the listen refers to seeing something or reading something as well. So if you say something that puts a smile on people's face as an a quip, and guaranteed, Richard, but with your personality, you definitely will do that. But other people do it as well, and they don't realize it. So what I'm saying is that next time you say something that puts a smile on someone's face, just remember it. You don't know whether you'll use it again, but remember and write it down. Put it into your iPhone notes or whatever device you have got. And so if you're reading a book, if you hear a comment from Jimmy Kimmel, for instance, or from Steve Colbert or someone like that, um, and you like it and you think it's some way appropriate to your industry, for instance, just write it down. And when you're next doing the presentation, maybe you can make your comment and then say, I noticed that Jimmy Kimmel said last night. So you're giving Kimmel credit for it, but you're using his material.
Right.
Okay, so that's the first element of the LAUGH acronym: listen, capture, record. The next two elements we'll actually take together, and this is the way I actually introduce this. Well, I'll ask you a question, Richard. Over the last few weeks, as you've been laughing or smiling, do you think you laughed more often at stories, or you laughed more often at jokes? Which one generated the most common amount of laughter?
Stories.
Stories, yeah, okay, all right. Because we hear the odd joke, but we don't have that many jokes. But it's stories that help us to uh, make us laugh. So the way I actually introduce this is, all right. So the second element of the LAUGH acronym is A for antidote, and people like to tell antidote. What? It's not antidote. Oh, it's anecdote. Oh, okay. So the second element of the LAUGH acronym is anecdote. And in fact, Richard, the antidote to a weak speech actually is a good anecdote. Okay? All right. But so we're talking about anecdote, but I will take the you as well, Richard, on this. So it's an anecdote where something was uncomfortable at some stage. Now, when you hear a story where everything went perfectly, you will not be laughing at it.
No.
But the stories that make you laugh is where something went slightly wrong, and where that went slightly wrong, but is now not a major issue in someone's life. They're the stories that get people laughing. And if you take the anecdote that was some way uncomfortable, happened to you or to someone else, say to yourself, all right, I'll put that into my iPhone notes or my notepad. When can I use it? And how can I use it at some stage? So that example, for instance, of my son with the shaving foam is an example of uh, the anecdote where there was something slightly uncomfortable. Another one a couple of weeks ago, and these kind of things you hear about, and it happens to everyone. I was playing golf with a couple of mates of mine, and some of these guys are pretty well to do. So they've got their motorized golf cart, okay? So the little Tesla kind of that runs
Yeah.
around the course. So Bob and Ted are two of my buddies who've got the motorized carts. Bob is looking for his golf ball. He eventually finds it. He presses the little fob to bring his cart over towards him. He sees the cart come over towards him. Then we start shouting, Bob, Bob! Bob has just driven his cart into the lake because the cart that was coming towards him was actually Ted's cart. Bob had his cart behind him and he drove it actually into the lake. All right, okay. Now, as you can imagine, he came out with one four-letter word when that happens, Richard, which was golf, by the way. Golf! Oh, golf! We eventually were able to get the golf cart out, and it has made a miraculous recovery, mainly because of the work someone else did on the cart to get it out there. But here's the example there. The example there is that again happened because someone was not paying attention. All right. So I also used that as an illustration where there was an anecdote which was uncomfortable, but right now it's become a great fun story. And anytime we're playing golf and we go by a lake, we say, Bob, that's your lake. And he says a four-letter word as well, which is not golf. Okay.
Right.
But again, now I did not create that humor. It actually happened. So for everyone, pay attention to what puts a smile on your face. Pay attention to the anecdotes that are uncomfortable at the time. So the story you were telling your friends at the water cooler last week or Starbucks that had them laughing, I bet it was where something went wrong. And say to yourself, hey, they laughed at that. Is there a moral to the story? And if there's a moral to the story, now you've got something you can bring into your sales call or into your business presentation.
That's awesome. You know, if you're not watching this on video, you'll see me smiling a lot and laughing. And I'm going to tell you why, Connor, because every time you're talking, I'm only thinking about things that are extremely hilarious yet inappropriate. So I cannot share them. But I've got so, and they're stories, okay?
Yeah.
But these, for the record, happened in 2001, one particular 2001. I will keeping myself from laughing about it right now. I've
Right.
told it for 25 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's hilarious. I almost can't tell the story. I laugh so hard every time.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
how good it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much to my wife's chagrin.
Right, I
Okay.
know. Well, I mean, let's be honest about it. The funniest stories are often the bluest stories, but you're working in a corporate environment and you can't use those. I'll tell you,
Right.
when I worked back in the UK, this would have been 20 plus years ago, 25 plus years ago now. Myself and another, I was a marketing VP over there and got on, had a very good relationship with the sales team. So one of the sales guys used to tell filthy jokes. So I used to tell filthy jokes and we'd be breaking our sides laughing. Jeremy broke his ribs. And when you break your ribs, laughing is not fun. So when I heard that Jeremy broke his ribs and was back into the office, I go into Germany and it's Jeremy and I said, Jeremy, I've got a joke to tell you. Jeremy said, Conor, please don't. I went ahead and told him the joke. He's laughing and in pain at the same time. So when I speak about being empathetic and caring to people, maybe I don't always show it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I tell you, mine are not, they're not even, they're inappropriate in certain company.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, they run the gamut, right? But I have a number of things running through my head. That's why I kept smiling because I'm starting to laugh at these things that, that are just stinking funny.
yeah,
They're just funny.
yeah,
And I love the ability to apply them in situations, which I do. And sometimes, we go that one step too far.
yeah,
Where
yeah,
we take that one joke that probably because you get on a roll.
yeah,
Sometimes you got the audience going.
yeah, yeah.
You're telling a
And I mean,
story.
that's a challenge for speakers. Well, maybe not a challenge, but something we got to be really careful of, especially in today's environment. Now, I've never been called out on using profanity or anything blue in presentations, but I do know that some of the material that I might be able to get away with in this East Coast sales conference, I wouldn't be able to get away with when I'm speaking down to the mothers of seven down in Arkansas or something like that. But so there's subtleties you've got to be aware of, but I'm very careful in general that I don't do anything that can be seen as being an issue with any clients. Because if I get to mess up the client, and let's say I get it through a speakers bureau, that client then goes to the speakers bureau and they says he offended our people. I'll never get another gig out of that speakers
Right.
bureau again.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm the same way. Like I want to, I'm fresh. I'm talking about stuff. I go through things. I try to add the humor. Same thing. Get through the presentation. I always love to. I'm a little bit different. I don't do like the straight lecture kind of
Yeah,
style. I
yeah,
I I like bringing the audience in.
yeah, yeah,
I do a
yeah,
lot of walk into the audience. You know who's
yeah.
really great at that? Just to throw out names. You familiar with Andy Andrews?
With who?
Andy Andrews.
No, I can't
He
say
wrote
no.
the Traveler's Gift and the Noticer and all.
All
Unbelievable,
right. Yeah,
incredible speaker.
yeah,
Okay, I'm trying to like the foot funny.
yeah.
You'd love it. Look up his stuff.
Andy
Just a
Andrews. I
little
will.
thing to
Yeah,
Andy
yeah,
Andrews. I mean, so here's one thing he did. Okay. So he's on the stage, like 500 of us in a room. I'm in like the front row. Okay.
yeah,
He comes down. He asks this one guy. So, he asks, what's your name? And the guy says, oh, my name's John. Oh, that's my father's name. And he goes off and he says a few more things, and he's chatting and joking. Goes another guy. He says, what's your name? And he goes, Richard. He goes, that's my father's name. And he goes, and he does it like three or four, throughout the thing.
yeah,
You kind of get that, but just that little rhythm, it's just that break.
yeah.
You got like you're paying. Did he wait? You got it's just he has an amazing style. He's really, really gifted, just as I'm
Right.
sure you are.
Yeah,
But it's cool when you see that when someone's mastered their craft like that, and they're bringing on these really great points,
yeah,
whether they're heavy or not, but they can do it in that way, that
yeah,
rhythm, that flow, those breaks that just give you relief.
yeah.
Because when you're in a heavier subject, you got
Yeah,
to have a break.
You do, yeah, yeah. And you know that point that you said Andy Andrews does. What I try to do in my audience, because I believe that for a speaker, if you're doing keynotes or presentations,
Mhm.
that a lot of the uh, work can be done before you even get on stage. So if for instance, I'm brought in to be a motivational speaker to a sales conference or an association, the preview will be that this guy is a motivational speaker, provides good content with humor. Okay. So what I will do before the session actually starts, if that is available to me, I'll go to the first corner of the room, the right hand corner of the room, and say, "Hi, I'm Conor Cuneen, Irishman Speaks. I'll be speaking shortly in this goofball Irish accent. If I say anything slightly funny, laugh like crazy, and they all kind of go, okay, Cara, we'll do that, all right? So the few people in the room are seeing I'm up there that side, and the people are laughing. I'll then go down to the back end of the room, the right hand side, and I'll say exactly the same thing to that corner of the room. People are laughing. I'll then come over to the left hand corner of the room, exactly the same thing. People are laughing. And I come up to the front, people are laughing. So I've generated laughter, kind of a feel good factor already within the room, so that when I come on stage, then there's an awareness that this guy is hopefully affable, doesn't take himself too seriously, etc. But he's also got good content reinforced by humor to build that connection.
Yeah, another point on that too, though, you've made that personal connection with those groups of people.
Yeah,
You're real to them now.
yeah,
And
absolutely
that
true.
I think that's awesome. I think that's a really great technique
Yeah.
because now they're listening to someone they know.
Yeah, absolutely.
In
Yeah.
that
And what
sense.
it also does, Richard, is that it allows me to get the names of Richard, of Michael, of Jeffrey, of Ken, Tanisha, whatever it is around the room. Call them out once or twice during the session. As I was saying to Geraldine earlier, and then as Kevin told me at the start of the session, you're building that connection again. And another concept I've got about building connection and interaction, one of the most important word, Richard, when I'm speaking to you is Richard. The most
Amen.
important word when you're speaking to me is Connor, because that's what actually helps to build that connection.
That's it.
And whether I'm speaking to one or 1,000, I try to mention a few people's names in the conversation.
You know what's if you've ever been on the listening side, which I'm sure you have, and the speaker's doing that, right? You're kind of leaning forward. You're gonna say my name. I talk to you. It's like everyone wants that recognition.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Like,
yeah,
why does the pastor keep picking on that guy only? I'm here to be picked on too. Pick on me.
right.
I wanna be-
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. We all want to hear our name, right? What do they do? What do they say when you're lost? The only all you do is shout out your name because that's
right.
the one thing you'll hear.
Yeah,
You won't hear someone else's name. You'll hear yours. Then you'll get rescued. So it's very important to us, our
yeah,
names.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I had to train myself to remember people's names because I was very what do they call it? Self-absorbed, I believe is the word.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so it was like you're who? Who is that?
yeah,
I mean, you'll turn around, I can't remember their name. So I
yeah,
had to do my little exercise and really get good at that stuff, because it matters.
yeah,
Because it really matters. It was really part of just being changing my,
yeah,
make it more outward and not inward. And
yeah.
but it's powerful.
It is, and I mean, like when you get the person's name wrong, Rocky, I know you'd be upset at this kind of thing. Like, people get upset at a name being mispronounced. I get upset when people spell Connor 5 letters, only one N, and everyone here in the United States gives me a second N. My parents couldn't afford a second N. But I mean, it's simple little things like that that can either annoy people or help to build that connection when you're in conversation with them.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I go through school. I get my diploma. My name's Richard Allen Walsh.
Yeah.
I give my diploma to my mother. She sees it. She looks at it. She goes, "You you spelt your name wrong." I go, "What do you mean? Your middle name?" I go, "Alan." She goes, "No, it's Allen." And I go, "What? Well, I don't like that. I spelled it this way my whole life."
Right. Yeah.
She had no
Yeah.
idea. So I got this. So now I have a high school diploma with the wrong, middle name. But there you go. What did I
Right.
know? I just spelled it the way I wanted to spell it. And that's
Yep.
what happens.
Yeah. So when we got the laugh acronym, so we've got listen, an anecdote that is uncomfortable, that will definitely be a humorous thing. G is for Google, as I say, Google on the Bing. Okay? All right. Or I also refer to it as the Googler. All right. And the basic idea here, Richard, is that if you are looking for some humorous anecdote or quip or a illustration related to your messaging, why not Google it on the Bing? All right. And when you get to the Googler and start Googling on the Bing, you will find out, let's say you're doing something on leadership. What did Mark Twain say about leadership? Or give me some funny quotes on leadership. What did Groucho Marx say about leadership? And when you're talking about the importance of leadership and having a clear vision, etc., you might be able to say, all right, we all appreciate that you've got to have a clear vision. You could use something like, what do I want to be famous for? Going back to what I spoke about earlier, you've got to have a clear vision of what you want to be famous for. And as that great philosopher Groucho Marx said about leadership, and you pop that slide up. Now, when I think about another example of that, when I talk about Googling on the Bing, it just generates a smile, all right, because it's goofball. Now, when it generates a smile, the little leprechauns pop up and make people feel a little bit better. They're paying a little bit more attention to me. But that is not my phrase. I was back in Ireland a few months ago talking to my brother-in-law. He was asking about something, and I said to Finbar, the brother-in-law, why don't you just Google it on the Bing? And Finny went, ha, that's funny. I said, Finbar, I heard that phrase from you about 7 years ago, and I thought it was actually funny. I just paid attention to it. I now use it regularly. And he had totally forgotten the phrase.
Right.
The word Googler gets a smile on people's face. And I think the way that happened, I can't remember the initial conference I was at, but just referenced when you're Googling on the Bing, just go onto the Googler gang and Google on the Bing. All right. I saw people smile at the word Googler, and I said, Connor. So I now regularly tell people get onto the Googler and Google on the Bing. Two little pieces that one generated by me, the Googler, the other by my brother-in-law, but I listened to both of them, captured it and recorded, and now I can use it again and again and again. So that's an example of how Google and listening kind of are combined. But if you want to find something quick and humorous, I do suggest Googling or AI, I suppose, at this stage as well.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of the slang get comes about. Someone just says something wrong,
Yeah,
or they just make it up
yeah,
because they don't really know how to say it or whatever, and it becomes the norm. I love it. There's so many instances of that, and for the grammar Nazis, they get all offended, but like, listen, man, that's language. It changes. It
absolutely.
evolves and stuff like that. There's things that we have, and it's really in the English language, like it is so many meanings to words that you would never know, you know what I mean, but applying them. So it can be tricky, but man, so many great hilarious things
Yeah.
come out of that,
Yeah, but
you know.
most definitely. And I mean, if you're a grammar Nazi or if you're totally left brain, you're going to have difficulty with the logic behind humor because humor is not really logical. A lot of them, you can pick points and issues with it almost all of the time.
And you're going to
So
have a short friend list too, if you're that.
true enough, yeah. So the laugh acronym we got listen, anecdote, uncomfortable, Google on the Bing, and the final one is H, and H is for he to ho ho. And the idea here, Richard, is that if you say something puts a smile on someone's face, on a client's face, or the audience's face, pay attention to it, then ask yourself later on, all right, I got a he there. How can I go to ho? And as you get more experience, you'll realize that maybe my timing needs to be a little bit better, as you were talking about earlier. Maybe you use a different word rather than what you were using. Maybe you actually exaggerate it a little bit more, but make sure it's always appropriate. But if you've got that little he, that's the acorn. How do you figure out now that we can create a wonderful giant oak of laughter with the concept?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if you do. I do this a lot with, so I podcast a lot. I guest a lot, of guest appearances and everything else. And primarily my guest appearances, I do it a little bit more with my hosting now too, is I always listen to what it
Yeah,
was. I play it
yeah,
again. My wife gives me so much guff about that. Really, are you listening to yourself again? I go, I am, because
yeah,
I'm learning. I'm learning. Like, how did I deliver that? How did
yeah.
I say that? Oh, maybe I shouldn't throw my brother under the bus. You might actually hear this someday. You know what I
Right.
mean? So there's little things like that, but I love that kind of feedback for getting better. It
Yeah.
really helps me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in an industry where feedback is absolutely critical, and I know, thankfully, I don't get bad reviews. But I mean, you do get comments when you speak to associations at times saying, "This guy went on too long," or what I've actually got, just as genuine, from an association event last year. I could listen to Connor all day. The next comment underneath it was, "I think it was good, but maybe a little bit too long." So I mean,
Right.
it's
Right.
well,
It's
evaluations though, like what you're saying, listening to yourself, reviewing yourself, are really critical to continue growth.
yeah, I don't know how else you do it. You know, it's just like if you got a golf swing, you should videotape yourself and you
Yeah,
should see what you're doing. You know, we use it in training all the time. We videotape ourselves boxing. Okay,
yeah,
I do. I see what's happening. I watch the fight over and over again.
yeah,
What did I
yeah,
do wrong? How do I learn? So there's really no, whether it's audio, visual, whatever, I think it's a real key component to anything you're doing in your business. If you're doing a simple presentation to a group of peers, you know, to
yeah,
anything like this is the day and age of recording everything.
yeah.
More useless things are recorded than important things today.
Right.
You know, like people
Ain't
just
that
walk
true,
around
brother? Yeah,
taking a
yeah,
picture of themselves every 37 seconds, you
yeah,
know? So
yeah,
who cares? But we really want to do that. So I think it's a really good tool for learning and getting better quickly. It
yeah.
compounds your time frame into getting better quickly, because especially, you know what they say, the number one fear of people is public speaking,
Right.
greater than death. They'd
Yeah,
rather die than public speak. And I never had that fear.
yeah,
You get a little like nervous, but I'm
yeah,
like, I'm not going to die. I'm going to get up and I'm going to kill it.
yeah,
I compare it
yeah.
to boxing.
Right.
I tell people there's 4 steps you got to climb to go between the ropes and get in the ring. The the most terrifying, horrible 4 steps you'll take every day you spar.
Right.
Every day I stand there and just go, here I go. I'm going to take a beating. And I
Yeah,
got to go up those 4 steps, stack in. But when the bell rings, game
yeah,
on, fear's gone, we're throwing down.
yeah.
3, 4, 5, 7 rounds, whatever it is. We get the job done. Then I get out and I go have a joyful workout. But every day it never changed. So you got to understand there's this point in the beginning that you have to be able to step through, right? And all that training and mastering what you do eliminates that fear, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I like about what you say there is that I think it's really important to leave people with mental triggers. So that, all right, they heard what I said and they said, that's very good, but how do they remember? And I try to create some mental triggers, and laugh is one example, for instance. But you're just comment there about the 4 steps you need to take before you get into the ring. I can see the people actually walking into the ring. I never realized those 4 steps, but it's a really clear, concrete little analogy that will help me to appreciate further what you are talking about and the message you're trying to get across.
That's right. And I got plates and wires and a new nose to prove how hard it was. Okay. I know I'm really pretty and you'd never
I
know,
could have
but
been a contender. I
that's
could
right. I
have
could
been
have been
a
something,
contender.
but then I wasn't. That's how it goes. And here I am.
Yeah,
So talking
yeah,
to Connor, having an awesome time. This is fantastic. So we have covered basics. We have gone a little bit advanced, okay, in humor. And now I'm going to push you to go to like even higher. Well, let's give us a couple of your super hacks or just some more general tips, if you will, because I know people are getting to understand the power of humor in your
yeah,
speech, but we're also talking about delivering, right? And
yeah,
delivering where the magic is. Humor is a part of it,
yeah.
but delivering is where it's really at, right? The how-to kind of thing. So maybe a little bit just on delivery itself. Touch
Right.
on that a little bit if you could, because it's difficult for people without
Yeah,
being that structured reading from a book kind of thing, which is how I did my first speech ever. I read from a
right.
book.
Yeah. Well, I think like everything in life, Richard, practice does not necessarily make perfect, but it does make you better. And if you, as a salesperson, buy into the concept that yes, there is a connection, trust, and likability factor associated with humor, and if, all right, I'm not funny, but I do understand if I can make the client smile a couple of times, it's going to build connection, trust, and likability, and that's what I need. So if I need that, I'm going to have to it's like getting into the ring. There's four steps. Get into the ring. I need to take those uncomfortable steps. So if I'm dealing with a client, I have an idea of just one slight little humorous anecdote. Maybe it's a self-deprecating one about yourself. Another simple one, and probably the easiest one for people to do would be because most people would be, a lot of people will be presenting using their iPad, for instance, or some people are on stage and they're doing PowerPoint presentations. But
Yeah.
anyway, one way to make the PowerPoint presentation worthwhile is Google on the Bing for something humorous related to your presentation. There might be a quote or a comment or a cartoon or something like that. Be careful about stealing proprietary stuff, etc. But if you're making a comment about something serious, make that serious comment and then say, by the way, this slide here probably suggests a slightly different focus on it, but it's actually a humorous reference. What you've done is you've taken something that you haven't created, you've Googled it, you've put it in, you will get people smiling. And then what happens in the brain is that you get this priming effect. So if they smile once, they might smile again and again and again. I'll tell you a good example of this. I was doing a presentation. This would be about, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 years ago to a healthcare conference. And they all have to go to these healthcare conferences for continuing aid. And God love us, the nurses and the healthcare professionals, they are filled with boring material from morning until night. And if a guy comes in with an Irish brogue that is even slightly humorous, it's like Elvis walked into the room, okay? So one guy, I mean, this conference, I do remember the nurses were at the back of the room with their knitting. All right, and they were knitting away kind of thing as oh yeah. But anyway, one of the guys, a youngish uh, doctor, maybe early 30s, stood up and he said, I'm going to do a presentation on the whatever it was. But he said, I've been to Toastmasters and I have been told I got to present humorous slides during the presentation to get the audience right. So he presents a slide, which is a humorous slide, and the audience laughs. What are you saying, Connor? It was a slide of a humorous bone. Okay, so he was able to get his medical audience laughing when he was putting up a humorous slide and say it was actually the humorous bone. He had them from then. I mean, I paid attention to him after that. The rest of the guys, there was a guy on who was speaking. He was some kind of a neurosurgeon or a brain surgeon. He was so boring, Richard. I swear the room was praying for a lobotomy.
Right.
Okay, but the other guy, he just took one humorous slide, which actually happened to be a humorous bone, tied it in very well with the audience, and that's a really good example of. And as I say, he then got the audience's attention.
Yeah, those openers, they are they're everything. I remember once I had to get up and give the announcements at church. I got christened. I got to get up and give announcements every two
Yeah,
weeks, you know. So the first day I have to do it, it's daylight savings time. So the
right.
clocks were moved ahead, or yeah, moved ahead, whatever it was, an hour. So I just got up and I said, well, I see we're a little short on people here today, you know, not here on time, whatever was set back. And I said, it reminds me of the old Indian saying, you know, only the American government can take a blanket, cut one foot off one end, sew it on the other, and tell you it's longer.
Right.
People, you start getting to laugh. Okay, then next week we're gonna at the preschool. We're gonna, you know, we get into the whole thing and I get
Yeah,
out of there, you know. But even then, you know, you gotta those openers are critical.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like you said, they set the whole tone.
They do. And what I'm often asked, should I start with a joke? And my response on that is like what the lawyers will always say. Uh, what my fee is. No, what the lawyers always say is it depends. And it really does depend. If you're in front of an audience that knows you well, I think starting with a joke is very, very appropriate. If you're presenting to the church group, for instance, that works also. Other times when you've got to do a serious message to get across, starting with a joke might have people saying, this guy isn't serious. But you can, though, bring in humor later on to reinforce the points and build that connection again. So it's horses for courses is the phrase we use in Ireland.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, again, it's knowing your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Where are you at? What are you doing? I mean, I hate to use the word common sense because we're kind of short on that these days.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
would be common sense, but I guess we should actually tell you that
yeah. It's
you're telling
true.
jokes
Yeah,
at the funeral to open. It's
yeah.
probably not the thing to do. Later, after you've drunk for 2 days, then you can do that. But
Yeah,
yeah, I love it. I just think I think delivery is so critical, in all of this, and again, at all levels, if it's a 5-minute delivery,
yeah,
it's 5 minutes. Okay. Now for some people, that's an eternity.
yeah.
For guys like you and we're not even warmed up yet.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
just yapping. It's all good. So we fly through an hour like we just got up from a nap. It's
Actually,
good.
yeah, have flown through an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I love it. So give us some parting thoughts, Connor. That's what we need. Some wise Irish, really cool parting thoughts on humor in speech and delivery.
Okay. We're now coming to wise parting thoughts from the Irishman. My Christian brothers teachers would never have thought they would be getting wise parting thoughts from an Irishman named Conor Cuneen. Someone once asked me, Richard, actually, when did you realize you were funny? And I kind of say I'm humorous rather than funny. But I said, one time my teacher did say, Cuneen, you're a clown. But I'm not sure if he actually meant it in a positive way. But the wise parting thoughts is you don't have to be funny to be funny. If you buy into the concept and understand the concept that humor does help to build connection, trust, and likability. You're in sales, you want to build connection, trust, and likability. Decide, I'm going to have to introduce some humor to my presentation. I'm afraid of it right now. Yeah, I am afraid of it right now. But other areas I was afraid of previously. There's 4 steps into the boxing ring. Boy, that analogy I really like, Richard. I swear to God.
Take it and run with it. You
Yeah,
got it.
it's really a decision you take that if I introduce this, there's a really good chance I'm going to build my sales. And one of the simplest ways to do it is to work on the laugh concept, Laugh. Listen, anecdote, uncomfortable, Google on the Bing or Googler, and he to ho ho ho. You can do it. And when you see the success coming from it once, you're going to be encouraged to do it again and again and again. And if you want some additional information on it, just contact, this is the way I do this sometimes, just contact the Irish guy at Irishman Speaks. What? You put it over on the other side? Ah, okay, contact Irishman Speaks and he'll be able to provide you with some good tips, tricks, and techniques on adding humor to your sales or presentation.
I love it. And I recommend you do. I think that again, this is a skill set everyone should have in their toolbox. Okay, they
Absolutely.
really should. It's everyday conversation. You're chatting up people. I mean, it's just this stuff works. And the reason, if you're thinking like Connor's telling you, get that story. What's the moral of that? A little bit of humor, right? Or whatever happened. Then you start applying. You can start applying in everyday conversations with
Yeah.
people, right? Now you're sharpening your spear. See how I threw
Yeah.
that in? See that?
Absolutely, yeah. I had actually said to myself, I must make sure I remember that
And you
phrase.
didn't. I beat you to it.
And
I
darn
got
it, I've
you.
got
I
to use
got
it.
you. Got you. Okay. So, but really, you really are. So, like, think about it. It's so powerful. And general conversations treat like a presentation. Look for the gold. Okay.
Yep.
Pull the gold out of it. Right. And use it.
Yeah.
Turn that stuff around. Make those notes like Connor's saying. I love it. This was so. It's an odd. It's an odd kind of topic, Connor.
Yeah.
To spend kind of, but once you hear how practical it is,
Yeah.
like it's like, oh, this is the tool I need. This is
Yeah.
that missing tool. This is
Yeah.
why I'm falling flat. This is why I'm not closing the deal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking money's on the line here.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're selling, this is a tool you need.
Yeah.
Okay, because
Absolutely.
it's going to enlarge your bank account. Humor will make you more money. That's
Yep.
that's
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
big takeaway. Humor
Yeah.
makes money. That's
Yeah.
what we want to know. So, absolutely fantastic, as I knew it would be, Connor. Thank you so much for the time today, being with us, man. Looking great. Irishman Speaks. Here he is. You heard him here. What's left? Going to the stars, probably. That's about it. That's all we can't get any bigger than Conor Cuneen. Okay, but you know what? We did it. We're done. Connor, you were amazing. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next Sharpen the Spear podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Sharpen the Spear podcast. If today's episode helped you think sharper, act smarter, or see new profit potential, do me a favor. Share it with a fellow home service owner and leave a quick review. Ready to find the profit hiding in your business? Head to sharpenthespearcoaching.com and book your free profit discovery call today. And until next time, keep sharpening.